Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Brainbean here again. Today we're going to be doing a review of the VAVA Chroma mechanical gaming keyboard. Now, just in the name itself, VAVA Chroma, it's not hard to imagine that this keyboard is heavily inspired by the Blackwidow Chroma. And that's actually the reason I wanted to do the review on it in the first place, because it's kind of a half-price version of a Blackwidow Chroma. And I wanted to take a look and see how close it comes and just how good of a value it is at basically getting a half-priced Blackwidow Chroma. And because I love you guys so much, I am going to be doing a giveaway for one of these keyboards as well, but I'll have all the details on that at the end of the video. For now, let's just take a look at the VAVA Chroma. Let's start by taking a look at the overall design and construction of this keyboard. The VAVA Chroma mechanical gaming keyboard is made primarily out of plastic and closely resembles the Blackwidow Chroma. You can see it's made with a plastic top cover and has the same white backplate under the switches, much like the Blackwidow. Unlike the Blackwidow, however, is the matte fingerprint resistant coating that has a soft feel and is quite nice to the touch. The keyboard itself is pretty weighty and it does feel solidly built. Now at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it felt a lot cheaper, but that's just not the case here. The body of the keyboard is designed to be fairly simplistic, but there is an elongated angular bit at the bottom. Now it's not big enough to call it a wrist rest as it's far too short for that, but it does give the keyboard a bit of personality, and it also has an almost invisible VAVA logo down in the center, which I actually think looks pretty nice, and is personally way better than some of the more typical obnoxiously flashy branding out there. The VAVA Chroma, like the name implies, is an RGB keyboard. Again, like the Blackwidow Chroma, VAVA has chosen to have a white backplate behind the keys, which give you that light box effect around the keycaps. This keyboard uses Kale RGB switches. Now I've said it before, and I'll stick to my guns here. I think that Kale RGB switches have brighter, more vibrant colors than some of the other switch manufacturers out there. This keyboard comes with 7 preset lighting effects and the ability to save up to 5 custom profiles. Unfortunately, there isn't any software to control the lights or edit the effects. It's all done directly on the keyboard. And while you still can do some customization to the animation, such as changing the direction of the color wave, for example, I do hope that this is something they plan to add in the future. Having even a basic software would allow for the keyboard to take full advantage of the RGB lighting and allow for a more intuitive experience. Even though there isn't any software, you still can create custom lighting profiles, but to do this you have to individually cycle through each color on every single key and then save it to a profile. It can be incredibly tedious cycling through all of these colors just to get the look that you want. And on top of all that, there really aren't a ton of color options to choose from, but I guess that's better than not being able to do it at all. Like I mentioned earlier, the VAVA gaming keyboard uses Kale Blue switches. These Cherry Blue clones will give you a very similar typing experience to Cherry MX Blues, as they have almost identical specs, including a lifespan of 50 million keystrokes, although they're advertised on this board as lasting 70 million. Now, Kale does get a bit of a bad rap, but to their credit, I have noticed improvement in the quality of their switches lately, and considering the price of this keyboard, I just can't consider the use of Kale switches a negative in this case. Compared to Cherry MX Blues, they do feel a lot crisper, albeit it is a slightly harsher click compared to the smoothness of Cherry. But unless you're really experienced with mechanical keyboards, I doubt you'll notice much of a difference. Here's a quick sound test of the Kale Blue switches. VAVA may have been trying to emulate the Blackwidow with this keyboard, but thankfully they didn't choose to copy the font. The font of this keyboard is nice and simple, while it's ever so slightly giving you that edgier gaming look. I'm a pretty big fan of it actually. Coming from my K95 Platinum, I find myself wishing it had a font more like this. The keycaps are made of ABS plastic and they have a nice smooth texture to them, and all of the secondary functions on the keys are nicely illuminated as well. In terms of extras, the VAVA isn't going to give you much. To be fair, at this price, it's a bit unrealistic to expect it anyways, but you do get a keycap puller, which is always nice to have come with a mechanical keyboard. You get media controls by way of the function key, and you can also enable a Windows lock mode for gaming, but that's about it. The LED indicators are fairly simple, consisting of single red LEDs for a nice clean look. The cable on this keyboard isn't too thick, it feels nicely braided, which isn't always a given on more affordable keyboards, so that's nice to see here as well. The underside of the keyboard has 6 rubberized pads and 2 rubberized extendable legs to keep the keyboard in place during use. There's also a 3-channel cable management routing system integrated into the bottom of the board to help keep your cables just a little bit cleaner on your desk. Overall, I like this keyboard a lot more than I was expecting to from a brand that quite frankly I've just never heard of. I'll admit that seeing this somewhat blatant copying of the Blackwidow Chroma made me think that this was going to be just another bad knockoff. There are some flaws, of course. The lack of software does it a huge disservice, and it would certainly elevate this keyboard to a more noteworthy position in my book if it did have some good software. I can also see the lack of extras like dedicated macro or media keys being an issue for some of the gamers out there, but if you're someone who prefers to just set up a nice preset lighting effect and doesn't want a ton of lighting customization, then I think the Kale RGB switches will give you a much nicer RGB experience than a lot of other keyboards at this price point. And that's the real thing that should be taken into consideration here. This keyboard only costs $80, and for that I would say the overall aesthetic and user experience is pretty good. The only issue that I see here is that for $80 this keyboard is coming very close to other RGB keyboards that offer a lot more. Of course, at the end of the day it's up to your preference, but I would recommend trying to grab this keyboard on sale as the sub $80 price point makes this much easier to recommend. Well, that's it for the video, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about having this kind of half-price generic Blackwidow. And like I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a giveaway for one of these as well. All you have to do to be eligible to win one of that is 1, be subscribed to my channel, and leave me a comment down below just giving me a suggestion on what kind of review you want to see next. Of course, you can also toss this video a like if you enjoyed it to show your support. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at BrainBean Gaming to stay up to date with what's going on with the channel. I've been doing more computer builds and things like that lately, and I've been posting updates on those progress there, so you can check that out if that's something you're interested in. Well, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.